It is said, "A man is born of his mother and is fed of his mother. Then he is fed of the land, and the land passes through him, taking and giving a pinch of dust each time, until man is no longer of his mother, but of the land." Scylvendi proverb. And in Old Shaic, the language of the ruling and religious castes of the Nansurium, Scylvenos means catastrophe or apocalypse, as though the Scylvendi have somehow transcended the role of peoples in history and become a principle. Drusus Accomian, Compendium of the First Holy War. All right, so in this chapter, this is where we meet Nair or Sciotha, who is a really interesting character, I think. Um, yeah, so I mean, the chapter starts off with the meeting of the tribes before the Battle of Cayuth, um, where Nair and Zunarit are, I guess, to put it charitably, debating strategy. Um, Nair, the way he's interacting, demonstrating that he has a lot of experience and is more patient or wise, I think, than Zunarit, who is clearly a little more eager, and the people are generally quicker to dismiss Nair, even though he's saying some good shit, because they all know that Nair is a faggot, or at least that's how they would describe him. So Nair, in sort of a like Cassandra sort of position, can talk all that he wants about the strategy that the Nansur are taking, and Zunarit and the head of the Moenghussy, whose name escapes me, none of them really give a shit because anything he says is already stained by the shame of being gay, or at least having been groomed into murdering his father by Moenghussy. So it also shows how the people are very set in their ways, right? This is how they've always done it, and so this is how they're going to do it. Um, and it also demonstrates, at least, or it maybe foreshadows how Confis has exploited that in the battle. And while we don't know yet how he's going to do that, specifically in terms of bringing the sake, yeah. Um, we know that he's at least manipulating them into inciting them to attack by sodomizing Scylvendi captured Scylvendi, because sodomy and buggery is such a grave offense to the people, and also their positioning and their timing. And Zunarit just ignores that and is like, dude, fuck it, we're gonna kill them because they are Nansur, we are Scylvendi, that's what we do. And so Nair has to go into the battle just sort of knowing something's off, and it's not just that it's not just the Nansur who are plotting. There's Balate, there's Yorsalka, there's the rest of the Utamot who are plotting to use this as a means to kill Nair and erase the shame that he has tainted them all with. So we get into the battle proper. Oh, a small thing. When Nair and Balate are talking, Nair hears someone laughing and immediately thinks it's about him. And I think that really characterizes how besieged Nair feels, or constantly scrutinized or mocked just out of the corner of his eye in his periphery. And yeah, that's relatable. When you have people talking shit about you behind your back, every laugh feels like a knife. Even if it's not about you, it becomes about you in your mind, and it's just not a great experience. So we move on to the battle. Nair and his Utamot make the charge, and a lot of them get cut down. And then he realizes that not all of his people made the charge, only some of them, and that he was really sacrificed just for the purpose of him being killed. And of course, he interacts with Bala. Um, nope, never mind. That doesn't happen yet. Um, anyway, so a lot of people are cut down. He doesn't die because he's Nair or Sciotha, breaker of horses and men. After the first skirmish sort of dies down, he retreats to a ridge of some sort to survey the battlefield, and that's where he realizes the mistake that the people have made, where Confus had disguised his troops as different troops in order to fool the people and seize the center, and not just the center, excuse me, but to deny the people of their Kore bowmen, who are obviously instrumental in defending the people against sorceress assault. And since they are killed because all who would defend them were sent to other parts of the battlefield, Confus can freely unleash the Sake upon the Scylvendi and so destroy them. And Nair sort of realizes it just as shit hits the fan, really. Um, and let's see. Then we find out that Belate and the others had conspired to kill him, as Belate is choking out and dying and all that, fumbling with his guts like a baby or something. I don't know. The descriptions in this book are fantastic. I swear, during the battle, it's like I felt my heart rate going up, just because it feels like you're there. I know that's a really cliche phrase, but like Backer really knows how to write. It's really good shit. So anyway, the fighting, or I guess not the fighting had already broken out. The slaughter of the Scylvendi breaks out. Nair is spared from sorceress wrath because he has a Kore, which is good for him. So he's running. He makes it to the Cayuth. He's knocked unconscious. Then when he comes to, we have this short little scene with the looters searching for shit. Um, Whenever I read that bit or listen to it in the audiobook, even, I like when Nair's being searched and all that. I hold my breath too, because like Nair is like trying not to breathe to seem like a corpse. And I don't know. Again, I think that's a testament to Backer's writing, that I get so immersed in it that I can't breathe if the character can't breathe. That's some pretty good stuff. I don't really like the looter characters. Um, at least in the audiobook, DeVries voices them with like sort of Cockney accents, and that just always is like, come on. That's a personal thing, though. Anyway, after they leave, Nair makes sure he has his Kore, which he refers to as his prize, which, you know, he later in the book refers to Serwe as his prize and his proof. The Kore is not proof, but it made me wonder what it was that it was the prize. How had he won it, right? Like, was it his prize for surviving the battle, or was it more so, I think, the prize of patricide, or the prize from committing patricide, which we get a little bit more insight later in, or I guess at the end of the chapter. Before that, we get the introduction of Confus and Martimus. Um, we have before that happens, Cnaiur's sort of thinking about the Nensorium with a lot of disgust and punctuates it with saying they're men who make sport with men. And that thought sort of brings the weight of realizing that everybody had known that he had fallen, I guess, or I guess being groomed into having feelings for Moenghussy, and the shame of being, I guess, oh geez, what's the word? Um, Not reassured, confirmed, I guess. Just the confirmation that everyone really was laughing at him behind his back. They knew all along that he was a weeper and a faggot. And that's a shitty feeling. I can imagine how awful that is. Um, and that of course being the root, the shame being the root of the blinding rage that drives Cnaiur. I think if anything, the degree to which Cnaiur can be violent and slaughter hordes of people and anything, I think that really speaks to the intensity of the shame, because that really is the source of his rage. So anyway, moving on, Confus is introduced. I think we already get an idea of how narcissistic Confus is, just by the way he's sort of condescending to Martimus and all that. Cnaiur, a little aside, there was a line that I really liked where Cnaiur was wanted to kill, but he was thinking, and he thought, why must he always think one thought too many? And of course, we know why. It's because of Moenghussy showing him that the step is trackless. But we're not at that point yet in the story. But I can really relate to that, being paralyzed from action by thinking too much, by over analyzing. That's definitely something I relate to. Anyway, Martimus and Confus are discussing the Scylvendi and their essentially blind adherence to custom and tradition. And yeah, that's sort of what did them in. And that's also what alienated Cnaiur from the rest of him, where he was shown that, again, the step is trackless, that any actions are able to be taken, that the only barriers on our behavior are the ones we place on ourselves, and that the barriers that others place on us through force. But being Cnaiur, he is powerful enough to just disregard all of that shit, because essentially nobody aside from an Anasorimbor is going to be powerful enough to constrain Cnaiur. And even then, Cnaiur is just fucking insane. So it makes it hard even for an Anasarimber to manage that, which is why Kellis has to rely on Serwe as a way to, as essentially a carrot on a stick to manage Cnaiur. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, so one quote that I'm just going to read, I really liked. Some events mark us so deeply that they find more force of presence in their aftermath than in their occurrence. There are moments that rankle at becoming past, and so remain contemporaries of our beating hearts. Some events are not remembered, they are relived. Yeah, that could easily be a definition of PTSD. Certainly, Cnaiur was traumatized by the death of Sciotha, maybe murder, maybe death. I don't know to what degree we can say that Cnaiur had agency over what he was doing, not just because he was groomed by an older man who exploited his romantic and sexual feelings for him, but also an Anasarimber who did that. So it's like 100 times more effective. And so it's really like Cnaiur was just the knife that Moenghussy used to kill Sciotha, rather than Cnaiur, I think, being able to even be blamed for the death of his father. We do get a short glimpse of, not of the murder, but of the circumstance leading right up to it. Um, and we see how Cnaiur is able to be controlled again just by a look from Moenghussy. So, and that's where it ends. We get a little look into Cnaiur. We get an establishing chapter which shows us the Scylvendi, their custom, their inflexibility, and their destruction at the hand of Confis. We see Confis as being characterized as someone who is very savvy, very intelligent, and a little prideful, a little narcissistic, showing that, um, Zarias is not the only Ikuri who has that trait going for him. Yeah, and then the chapter ends with Cnaiur fleeing into the darkness. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I really like this chapter. I think it's probably one of my favorite chapters in the darkness that comes before, where it establishes Cnaiur as a character. It gives us great insight into why he is the way he is, and it's got a fucking fantastic battle scene. I mean, sometimes, especially in the final book in the second series, I feel like the battle scenes just evolve into listing, this is Sfagnar of the Galioth contingent from wherever, and his father was blah blah blah, and it just gets too, it gets to be too much like a Wikipedia entry or something. but but the Battle of Cayuth is raw and it feels really good. I mean, to read. I imagine it was pure hell if you had to live through it. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. Another short episode. I don't know. Yeah.
Ah, these Ainona and their disgusting pictograms. They show men having sport with men. It's disgusting. I collect them so I can remind myself how disgusting they are. Look at this one. It shows Sejanus having sex with a priest, but it shows Sejanus as a top, and everyone knows he is an uke.
Silly.